The time to build is upon us.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You know the greatest danger facing us is ourselves. An irrational fear of the unknown.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
This is the Superhuman Academy podcast.
Well, Momoko, it's wonderful to reconnect. I remember from last time when I saw this on my calendar today, I was like remembering last time when we talked about sci-fi and aliens, and I believe you're a doctor, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I remember when we spoke, I was like, man, I don't know if I've ever met a doctor who's also like writing sci-fi books. And I think you were talking about, I don't know, did you write like what was it? There was something musical too. I'm trying to recall. Can you fill me in and remind me of what that was?
I wrote a musical. Yes, the musical has been in the works for 10 years right now. I'm not sure if I'll ever get it onto a stage or not, but that was my first attempt at writing. And it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy about alcoholism, which is not very funny, but
No.
But I tend to like to write about things that are quite dark. And so it's about alcoholism actually in the Asian American community. So, and about this man who you can, he just everything that you can imagine goes wrong in his life. And I won't go into the details because just in case it does end up
Spoiler alert.
off.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. I was curious too, in your like medical or health practice, what does that look like?
So I am a doctor of integrative medicine. So integrative medicine is not really a very regulated term. I mean, I actually have a doctorate in integrative medicine, but a lot of people actually use it, which is a little bit disturbing because you can integrate anything that you want, including basket weaving therapy and toenail fungus removal. It can be anything. And but I actually have a real degree in it. And so for me, what I mostly integrate is functional medicine and nutrition, psychology. I have a master's in psychology too, and then Chinese medicine, acupuncture and herbs. And that's all kind of mixed up together in one session usually.
Got it. I have no idea what that would look like. I'm super curious.
No, most people don't, and neither do I most of the time.
Okay. What does it look like? What does a day look like?
You have to kind of. What does my day look like?
What does it look like?
I usually only see one patient an hour because I like to spend a lot of time with each patient I get to know everybody quite well. So, I actually I specialize mostly in complex trauma and its relationship to chronic illnesses. So people who've been sick for a very long time have gone through very difficult, experiences in their life, trauma, and how that affects the body. So, right now not right now, but in general, I've worked with a lot of people who had fertility issues. Many of them have had a lot of childhood trauma. Or there's all sorts of different types of ways that trauma can affect the mind and the body. So that's my serious job.
Yeah. How do you help with that? Can you give me like specifics? I'm always interested in like what would I call them? Like mental frameworks, techniques, tools. Even if I can't use them, I'm interested to learn about them and see if I can apply.
Yeah. So if anybody has a traumatic experience, what ends up happening is that we then anticipate that bad negative experience is going to happen again. And that gets wired into our entire body. Like we have a cellular memory of this bad experience. It's in our muscles, it's in our cells. And then unfortunately we perceive the world through this negative traumatic experience. So what I try to do is help people change their mind, but also then change their body because they're usually in fight or flight and they're in an inflammatory state. That makes sense. And then depending on genetic issues, you might hold those weaknesses in certain parts of your body. So the trauma itself is more like a globalized specific thing, right? But then the genetic predispositions target certain places in the body.
Interesting. Okay. Like how do you identify where they are presenting in the body? What does that look like?
Yes, the patients usually tell me.
So they just say, like, "My foot hurts," or something like that? What is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's like, "I have pain here."
Okay. And
Yes.
then how do you go about finding the connection to trauma? What does that look like?
Well, let's see. It's usually a lot of trauma is usually in the gut. So it's in the stomach. Like, for example,
Hmm.
like if you have a bad experience, right? A negative experience, which provokes anxiety and fear. That usually, where do we feel that usually? We don't usually feel that in our, in our pinky finger. It's usually,
Mhm.
it's in the torso, if that makes sense. The
Mhm.
anxiety, like the heart palpitations, you feel sick to your stomach. Most of that's on a physical level. Now, what ends up happening is if you're in that chronic state for a long period of time, you're in that state of fight or flight, then the organs end up not having the sufficient amount of blood and energy to keep things working well, because fight or flight usually sends all the blood into the extremities. So then it's kind of leaves all the organs unprotected, let's say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, so it typically is gonna manifest in the torso, like the gut, and then w what specifically do you do, especially on, like, the mental side? I'm always really interested in, like, what kind of mental tools I could potentially use for myself or for
Yeah.
others. How does that work?
So once the gut's kind of been affected and the microbiome is off, then you're more predisposed to having different types of infections too. So a lot of people who have
Mhm,
chronic trauma often have a lot of different, not a lot, but have microbiome that's been disturbed because there's
mhm,
just not enough resources to fight stuff off. So if a healthy person, right, eat something that's not so great, they'll just pass through and they have a healthy microbiome and then they're fine. But if it's being compromised because you've been under stress for such a long time, then the microbiome starts to go off. And then
mhm,
once your microbiome goes off and your good bacteria goes down and then the bad bacteria goes up, then what ends up happening is that your neurotransmitters like your serotonin, dopamine,
mhm, mhm,
start going off too. And then your mood's off and then your sleep's off. And then that then cascades into all sorts of different problems. So what I would
mhm.
usually go do is first correct the gut. If there's any kind of gut imbalance, if you want me to, I can go into all the ways that we know that the gut's off. It's kind of gross, but I can go
Yeah.
I can go into
Well,
that if you
I guess,
want me
yeah,
to.
maybe I'm more interested in, like, the mental side of it
The
because you
mental
mentioned.
stuff.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
would you address that?
So what you do have to address the gut stuff, because if you don't address that, then the mental stuff doesn't actually clear up either. It's very, very difficult. You kind of have to get them both at the same time. But the
Okay.
mind, what we end up doing is I actually try to get people to journal as much as possible, or just to be more introspective and to
Mm,
start noting what kind of thoughts that they have, because there's often a lot of self-defeating thinking that goes on. Like if you've had a bad
yeah,
experience,
sure.
you anticipate that's gonna happen again. Like, for example, let's say you had a bad relationship and somebody leaves you. You take it
Mhm,
very, very personally and you have a hard time getting over that. Then you keep thinking, "Oh," and you meet another person, they're really nice, they have nothing to do with the last person, but then you keep telling yourself, "That person's gonna leave me."
mhm, sure.
And then we look at that and we start, we'll try to look at it, try to address the emotional, the damage that might have happened during that process, and then also get to reframe the experience and then create new different affirmations that you can say to yourself. So if you had that experience and you then decided that somehow you were unworthy of being loved, or whatever the irrational belief that you made from that situation, we would reframe that and then correct the irrational belief. And you would be then saying to yourself, "No, I'm worthy of a good relationship." Does that make sense? So then that becomes your new thinking pattern. So you get
Mhm.
rid of the "I'm not worthy" and I'm gonna get left to "I deserve a loving relationship and a commitment," whatever it is that you want.
Okay, in your experience, is it have you found it to be possible to just go on the mental side and see that shift the gut back to being healthy, or do you have to address the
No.
gut kind of separately? Yeah,
Yeah. In my opinion, it's very hard to do one without the other. They're very, very
okay.
interlinked, and I think that if you just do the mind, it's an uphill battle. It's very, very difficult if you don't correct the gut as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because the gut is responsible for producing and regulating a lot of
Yeah,
those
the
neurotransmitters and
neurotransmitters.
hormones and
Correct,
okay,
correct. So if
yeah.
that's already, if you're already low on serotonin, your mood's
Mhm,
just gonna be off and you're not gonna be sleeping well and you're gonna be more anxious, right? And so
mhm,
when you've got all of that running through your system and then you're trying to correct your thoughts, it's very
yeah.
difficult. But when you have your neurotransmitters are in more in alignment, then you've got your thinking working with your neurotransmitters. It's just much more effective. It's so much easier.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. I've worked with a lot of, psychologists, therapists, people in the mental health space, and I don't hear this talked about very much. I know that, like, I'm familiar with the fact that most of the serotonin in your body originates from your gut. But I think what you're saying here, it's really interesting because it's like, well, if you just work on the mental skills, like, you might build up really effective mental skills and coping strategies and things like that. Um, but you're always gonna be kind of fighting against your neurochemistry, right? So it's,
Exactly.
like, pulling you
Exactly.
backwards.
Exactly, exactly. And the relapses tend to be much once you get stuck in that, and then you're in a self-defeating pattern. You get stuck in a
Mhm.
loop again because your serotonin and the dopamine is not enough, right? So then you end up backsliding much more easily and go into more like dark thinking. But if you have your neurotransmitters are more healthy, you're more likely to stay in a positive place. I'm not
Right,
saying
yeah.
it's foolproof, it's just more likely that you will stay stable for longer periods of time.
Yeah, and it's like if you just address the gut problems that you'll have maybe improved neurochemistry, but if you don't have the mental skills, then you're still not
Yes.
necessarily resilient, so you're combining
Exa
both of
exactly,
them. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I do integrative medicine because I
yeah.
think that it's important to get both.
What are the typical, like, first things you do to address the gut issues?
Well, there's depending on what the patient actually wants to do, like, sometimes I might have them go get tested, to see what the imbalance is like. So there's specialty labs that will focus on, like, what kind of infections that you might have in the gut, like if you have a bacterial infection or a parasite or
Mhm.
fungus, and
Is
then
there a specific name for that lab, like the panel that you would ask for?
yeah, it's called GI map. That's a pretty good
GI
one,
map. Okay.
popular. There are others too. There's many specialty labs that do them.
Okay, okay.
And, I do recommend the specialty labs because regular labs, like if you go to a big, one at LabCorp or Quest or one of the big ones, they usually miss most of uh the infections.
Mhm.
It doesn't come out because they're not looking for DNA usually. So I do recommend specialty lab testing. Um,
You said DNA. That's not necessarily the patient's DNA, that's DNA of the
yeah.
microorganisms, is that
Yes,
yeah,
correct, correct.
interesting. Okay.
Yes, rather than trying to culture something because culturing is difficult, and or just looking for things. Sometimes it's if you're not, if you're looking at a sample and it's not right there, the person that's looking through it, right, might not necessarily see it, and then you'd get a false negative.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Alright.
culturing is also difficult too because certain things don't grow at the same time, or if you have something that grows on top of another, and then you also get false readings too. It's tricky.
Mhm.
Lab testing. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm a clinician, so I don't know a lot about
Yeah,
I don't
you're not in
know
the
much.
lab doing the
No, no, I'm not.
that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. So, if you're working with somebody, you might recommend them to do this GI map, and then do you give them recommendations on how to correct their
Yes,
microbiome from
yes,
that data then? Okay.
yes, I do.
What are the most common issues that you see that you have people correct for, and what's that path look like?
I would say the most thing that I see is H. pylori.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's bacteria that's usually mostly in the stomach
Mhm.
also can go into the gut too. It actually causes a lot of causes cancer too. So it's very
Mm.
important that that gets taken care of.
Okay, and then how do you take care of that one?
Antibiotics. You can do I don't recommend, pharmaceutical antibiotics because then it causes a lot of other problems. It's actually quite hard to kill. So I usually recommend herbal antibiotics, and it takes It usually takes months for it to go away. It's very
Wow.
tenacious, and most people need multiple rounds.
Got it.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
about half the population has it, but it's only symptomatic in a small amount of people. But it passes through um, food, you
Mhm.
shared utensils, and then kissing, or if you get really close to somebody and somebody spits into your mouth, you can get it that way too.
Yikes.
I know, lovely, right?
Yeah. Oh, man. I was kinda hoping you had some, like, lifestyle or diet adjustment that would fix it, but it sounds like
No,
that's
no, no,
no,
no, no, no,
man.
no. Does not go. You can meditate every single second that you're awake and be kind and help old people cross the street, and it will
Yeah.
do nothing for H. pylori.
Can you eat a bucket of ginger or garlic or something like
You
that?
might be able to actually
Maybe?
if you did that every single day for about 6 months,
Oh, no.
you might make some progress. You might.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Alright, so this is one of those cases where you kinda have to go, sort of nuclear modern medicine option. I guess, yeah, just
No, well, supplements, I would say.
supplement. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry,
yeah,
medicine
Chinese
might not be the right
yeah,
word.
yes, yes. You can do pharmaceuticals, but the only problem if you do pharmaceuticals, if you take, drugs, is that
Yeah,
then it can cause other problems too, because then you kill off the bad bacteria, but you also kill off a good bacteria, and then you're left
sure.
with even more of
Yeah,
an imbalance. So,
yeah.
pros and cons with that.
So is there specifically for H. pylori, is there a specific supplement that tends to do the best?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of supplements that help
Mm.
to kill off H. pylori. Like Coptis is a big one.
What's it
Um,
called?
Coptis it's a
Coptis?
Chinese yeah, it's a Chinese
Oh,
herb
okay.
that I tend to use. And yeah, there's many. I usually depending on the symptoms too, because it depends on if it's in the stomach or if it's in the if where it is in the intestines. It seems to, from my experience, what you use to kill it off works certain herbs work in different parts of the organs better. So anyway, like if it goes down into your colon, then you're more at risk for colon cancer. But the
Yeah.
herbs that tend to kill off in the colon are a little bit different from in the stomach. Why? I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know why that is.
So, I'm curious, I have a sense of what you're gonna say, but I'm not I won't predict it. Do you think like, if somebody's gut is off in this way, and I'm sure there are lots of ways for it to be off that I don't know about, but and mentally they're not feeling great, have you found that the addressing the gut tends to be more effective than, like, modern psychotherapy tactics? If you had to choose just one and you couldn't do both,
Yeah.
would you prioritize gut over the, like, psychotherapy side?
I would, because when your serotonin levels become normal, then 90% of your issue is gone, and you'll only be like dealing with like 10% of your anxiety. It just I see it all the time, I do this every day. And
Yeah,
everybody's like, "Oh my god, my generalized anxiety is gone." Like, I still feel anxious sometimes. I'm like, "Well, that's because you're alive." It's kind of normal to feel anxious sometimes,
sure.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's such a different perspective because I hear, again, I've worked with a lot of therapists and psychologists on the training side. I'm not a psychologist, but I have worked on the psychology education side.
Mhm.
And I hear I hear people say all the time, it's kind of like a catchphrase these days, like everyone should be in therapy. And I'm not going to say people shouldn't be in therapy. I'm not going to make a comment on that per se, but I think that that statement, it kind of, to me, gives this assumption that, if everybody went to therapy, we'd all be mentally healthy and happy and functioning really well. And I don't believe that based on what I've seen. It just doesn't seem that well supported. It's like, yeah, go to therapy. Not saying it won't help, but I don't think it solves all the problems. And, I don't hear many therapists or people in the mental health space saying, oh, yeah, first thing you should do is you might want to look at your gut. That's not what I hear. I hear people saying, well, have you tried hypnotherapy? Have you tried CBT? On and on, ketamine, whatever. There's all sorts of different things that people can do, but, um, gut check is not one I hear very often, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, as soon as somebody comes in and they're like, "I'm having a lot of anxiety and having trouble sleeping," my first question is, "Have you done therapy?"
Mhm.
I start asking them what their poop looks like. Yeah, slightly different.
Does that throw people off?
No, because, I'm a doctor, I deal mostly with the body. Then they come for their body, and then they don't realize most people don't even realize that I have training in psychology. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so they're often coming not just for anxiety, but a whole host. By the time that
Yeah,
people come to see me, they've already gone through,
sure.
a ton of different doctors. I don't wanna say that I'm, the last, you know, ounce of hope or anything like that, but they often have exhausted many, different, um different light modalities already.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense to me, though. Like, when I learned that most of the serotonin the body produces was produced in the gut, I kind of learned that as an isolated fact, and it's just stuck with
Yeah,
me ever since. It's like,
yeah.
that seems important, but I don't know
Yes,
what to do with that information. It
yeah,
seems like it would be important to do
and not
something
only
with that.
and it's also 95%. That's kind of a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah,
you
it's like
know?
yeah, almost
Kind
all
of
of
a
it.
lot. Yes, and then dopamine's like, I think, 50. So,
Yeah, it's wild.
all of that is it's pretty important, I would say.
Yeah. Alright, is there anything else, like, as a layperson that doesn't really know much about this that you'd recommend that I look into or learn more about?
Well, this is tricky because even if you realize yourself, right? Like,
Mm,
and you're like, "Oh, I'm really bloated and uncomfortable, and my poop looks not. I haven't gone in a week, or well, my poop looks really weird." Like, you tell your doctor this, and they're like, "Nah, it's all in your mind." So
mm,
this is really tricky stuff because most doctors are not well versed in this at all, and so then
yeah,
they'll get referred back to the psychiatrist or the
sure.
psychologist. So, what I recommend is that you go find a functional medicine doctor who can help you through this.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Alright, I'm very curious to look into this more. I've been doing a bunch of digging, if people have been listening to multiple episodes, I just did one recently with, Joe from Self Decode. I went through my genetics and everything, like, we actually just went through them on the show, so
Oh wow,
people can
cool.
look at my genes and things like that if they want to. Um, but yeah, I've just been really digging into, like, trying to understand my body better, and yeah, it's so many of the problems that come up mentally seem to have a physical at least a physical connection, if not a physical origin or something like that, and I don't see that well appreciated and addressed, and so I've been really digging into that recently, so this is fascinating to me.
Absolutely. And the other thing to also consider is where you tend to hold muscular tension too, because
Mhm.
that's also informs a lot as well. Like where in your body, because Chinese medicine is all on meridian therapy, right? Like there's
Yeah.
meridians that go through all the body, throughout the body, and so if you figure out where the meridian is running, where you're experiencing the pain, is very informative too. And it can kind of tell you what kind of emotions and what kind of thoughts might be stuck in there too. This is for chronic stuff, not
Okay. Would you mind
yeah,
doing that with me real quick?
yeah, 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 sure.
Okay. How would I figure that out? What do
Alright,
how should
so where do you have tension? Where are you having any tension in your body right now?
I tend to carry, like, I'm feeling doing a body scan right now. I tend to, carry a lot in, like, my chest. Like, where my shoulders and my chest meet, this is always super tight. My calves are always crazy tight, um,
So
and I
here
I do
so
on my neck a little bit sometimes too.
yeah. So here usually is to do with the lungs, yeah?
Okay,
So
okay.
that's that can be, repressed grief,
Huh,
like something that's you've held sadness. It's a little bit tricky because sometimes there's multiple channels that run through.
mhm,
There's everybody only has there's only really like a few different emotions that we all have, yeah? So, but in general, that's usually to do with repressed grief, or
so
it
the
can it
chest,
could
like, shoulder connection
uh,
area that's what you're saying?
okay. So if I could palpate it, I'd be able to tell you a little bit more, but
Okay.
it's hard to see exactly where you're pointing to.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it can
Here, sorry, my microphone was in the way. Right there.
yeah, I mean, so that can also be also, so you have to be careful in terms of, saying exactly what it is because it can also be if you tend to do this a lot, and
Yeah.
the muscles become short like this. That can be from like kind of chronic, like, I don't know, anticipating something bad as well, if that
Mm.
makes sense. And that actually goes in with calf stuff usually. Like calf stuff is often to do with fight or flight. You're getting ready to run away. So that
Did you say car stuff?
calves. Sorry, calves.
Calves. Okay,
Sorry, it's
sorry.
in my accent. I apologize.
I
But
apologize
in the
then.
calves,
Calves. Okay.
yeah, and the back of the legs often have to do with fight or flight. So, that's like getting it is specifically more to do with flight and running away. So if
Mhm.
you've had patterns of, that's usually chronic stuff. Of course, you could just be really into running as well. So
Oh, not anymore. No, I fun, not so fun fact, I actually ground out all the cartilage in my ankles. So I got X-rays and scans or whatever scan you do for that, and I've got, like, none, like, 0 cartilage in my ankles.
Oh.
I ran in high school. I ran just for a couple years track and cross country, and it started to become excruciatingly painful. Like, I could run, like, 30 feet, and then I would have to stop, and I couldn't go anymore because it would be too
Ah,
painful. And when I got scans, they were like, "Yeah, it was." Their assumption was anyway that because I had my posterior chain was so tight, like, all the way from my Achilles heel, basically all the way back up, past that through my neck even,
yeah.
um, there was no, like, give at all, and so it was just pounding straight into the cartilage until it was all gone, and it apparently doesn't come back, so, like, I have none my
Yeah,
ankle
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
still super tight, but it was tight before I started running, which led to that issue.
Yeah, so that potentially is not necessarily a mental or emotional thing, but unfortunately more like a genetic thing. If something like that happens very
Yeah,
early in life, and
uh-huh,
running, fortunately, is not the best for most people. There are some people who can get away with doing running for their, I actually had a
yeah.
patient recently. He was right. He's like 84 years old, and he said he was like really upset because he had to give up running at 82. And I was like, Hey, that's amazing. Because
I
most
gave it up at
I work
17,
exactly.
18.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of professional athletes, and they had to give up their sport because they were so injured, and so
Yeah,
that's a little bit different. Yeah, and that's from a
yeah,
chronic injury. But if you develop something, um, that is like you wear your knees out or you lose your cartilage at a very young age, that's usually a genetic thing.
yeah, yeah, I was kinda wondering. I'm guessing I am carrying some sort of, like, emotional tension somewhere, but it's hard to differentiate from
Yes,
tension
it's
from all
tricky.
the other stuff.
Yes, it's tricky to know what's what. What's
Yeah,
genetic, what's from overuse, and what's from stress. Because
yeah,
there are things like if you didn't have a genetic thing and if it was not from overuse of running, usually the calves have to do with fight or flight. So that's usually to do with like this wanting to kind of run away from uncomfortable situations, but feeling
yeah,
like you can't and you have to stay. That's
like,
usually stuff like that.
feeling
Not always.
trapped. Yeah.
Yeah, you kept and really wanting to run, but you're kind of mentally running, but you're not physically necessarily running.
Okay, so is that a way to think about it? Like, if you're storing in your body, it's because your brain wants to do that, but it can't, and so it's kinda like simulating it, but not actually doing it? Is that a way to think about
It
it?
can be, absolutely,
Okay.
it can be that way. It's much more individualized. Like when I'm actually working with a patient, I'll be talking and I'll be palpating wherever they have pain, and then I'll ask them about, fight or flight in general
Mhm.
and how it relates to them. Like,
Mhm.
I might say, "Hey, it's a pattern of fight or flight. Is that something that, you know, resonates with you?" And they're like, "Yeah, oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It means X, Y, Z," and then we'll open up a conversation. So it's
So,
very
when you say palpating, is that like
it's
tapping? What is that?
yeah. It's like I'm actually, like, going through the muscle tissue and
Uh-huh.
feeling where it feels tight, although in some cases where there's been a chronic tension or injuries, and there might be some bunch of scar tissue, so I'm feeling for that too.
Oh, man. It'd be cool to be able to feel for that. I have no idea what that feels like. I'm guessing you've kinda, like, trained your
Yes,
senses
yes,
to be able
yes.
to pick up
Yes.
on that. Yeah.
Yes, there's a scar tissue is really interesting because you can tear in different ways. You can have little specks of scar tissue, and then you can also have like more like long strands of it, or then you can have blobs of it when you've had like a big
Mm.
tear that goes across muscle fibers. So that all feels very different. It does take time to be able to, correctly diagnose what's what, and it's not. And sometimes I'm wrong too, because sometimes
Yeah.
it's not scar tissue too. It's just muscle fibers that have been bunched up.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds tricky. That's a skill I'd love to learn, just be able to, like, feel I've got a buddy of mine who, was a myofascial release therapist for over a decade, and he can just, like, put his hand somewhere and kinda move around and just tell me all sorts of stuff that's going on in that area.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
"Man,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
so cool." It's like you've got, like, a X-ray built into your hands or something like
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing that for decades, we definitely build up that ability to be able to feel things that, that most people wouldn't be able to feel. But, you do that every day, I think anybody would be able to after 10 years, you get a pretty good sense of what's going on.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
skill I'd like to try to build at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe
anybody
I'll
can.
start to
Yes, you
I'll
can
have
start
him help
today.
me. Okay, this is a super hard pivot, but I'm really curious to hear more about, like, what got you into writing musicals and sci-fi novels and things like that. Where does that fit into your life?
So I've always really wanted to write, and I wasn't very good at it, but I liked doing it in high school. I
Mhm.
got a C minus in creative writing, and they said my teacher said, "You're really not very good at this. You should probably pursue science." And
Ouch.
so, um, you know, this is the '80s, and this is how teachers used to talk to students back then.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, so I went off to medical school, and I somehow got through that. I don't know how. And I think it was mostly I've been writing on and off for a really long time, but it was about 10 years ago that I started taking it really seriously. I thought, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm just gonna sign up for a class. And so I signed up for a class at Gotham Writers Workshop, which is in New York City, it's local to where I am. And it just
Mhm.
kind of started there, and I've just kept it up. So
Mhm.
I published my first book in, I think, a few years ago. Um, it is actually a memoir about it's called 14 Days, and it's during the height of the pandemic. And I'm Australian, and my mother was living in Australia, and I was forced. She was very ill, and she passed away. But I went back to see her before she died, and I was forced into a two week long government mandated quarantine. And so it's my experience of that. I'm mostly a comedy writer, so I'm writing about death, dying, and illness, but I try to make it as funny as possible because otherwise it's really difficult to read about dark subject matters.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that humor lets us do, right, is explore
Yes,
places that are hard to explore.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my first because actually what ended up happening is during the 2 weeks that I was in hotel quarantine, I actually almost died myself. And I
Wow.
had this very freaky anaphylactic reaction. And, anyway, and during that whole process, I wasn't sure if I was gonna die or my mother was gonna die first, but somehow I made it through. And then I promised myself if I got out of that, that I would publish a book. I'd finally put myself out there because nobody was gonna do it for me. And, it was like this dream that I had, and I thought, "I'm gonna do this because life's short. You just never know
It
when you're
is
gonna
short.
die."
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
for you. That's
yeah.
really cool. And you're writing another one now, right?
Yes. So, my second book was a contemporary. It's about overcoming trauma. It's about a woman who has goes through a lot of, who is assaulted and goes through this whole healing journey. It's based on internal family systems. It's a,
Mhm.
I'm sure you've heard about it. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
so that came out a couple of years ago now. And then the
What's that
third,
one called?
Bringing Sunshine Back to My Mind.
Oh,
S
cool. Okay.
Sunshine is her inner child. It's a nickname for her inner child.
Mm,
Anyway,
got it.
so
Yep.
that one's also very, it's also very dark, but it's also I try to make it as silly as possible. There's a lot of narrative by a 14-year-old. Her inner child is 14 years old, so you can imagine,
Mhm.
like, how a 14-year-old thinks. So,
Yeah.
anyway, so there's that too, and then my third book, which is, I think, coming out, I think in a couple of months, is called Hello Humans, and that's
Mhm.
the sci-fi comedy.
Yeah. I'm excited for
And
that.
yes, yes, me too. I hope that it's coming out. I have no idea. I need to check with the publisher. But that's about aliens and this intergalactic um committee that's trying to welcome planet Earth to the Intergalactic Committee, but is
Mhm.
struggling because Earth isn't quite ready. So it's a lot about actually
Yeah.
environmental issues too. So
Okay.
because I'm very concerned about the planet, and I'm sure many people are about
Mhm.
microplastics in the water and how it's affecting human development. So
Yeah.
a lot of that too in there. It's I try to throw this is probably my first really comedy. So I try to throw as many jokes in there as possible. So anyway, I write to really entertain myself. And I hope that some other people find it funny too. You know?
Well, yeah, I love that. I mean, it's just an honest way to do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're not enjoying it, and I think that, some people are really good at writing for an audience, even if they don't necessarily enjoy the process. I don't know how they do that. Like, for me, when I write, I do a lot of writing too, but I haven't published a
Yeah.
whole lot. But it's like, if I'm not enjoying the writing, then, like, I don't even wanna read my own writing. Why would somebody else wanna read it?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, yeah, I really just write it for myself,
yeah.
and again, if somebody else enjoys it, that's great, and then I have a metaphysical fantasy that's coming out, that's also with the publisher, another publisher out in the UK.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna be called Spirit Guides. It's actually a speculative fiction on the
Okay.
afterlife. That one's not as funny,
Mhm.
it's not as it's about reincarnation actually, and what we're
Yeah.
doing between lives. It's based
So
on
you said it's speculative. Does it kinda capture your current, like, thinking? Like, your belief about what may or may not be?
It's actually based on Michael Newton's research.
Oh,
He
okay.
passed away maybe more than 10 years ago now, but he did a tremendous amount of research on the afterlife by regressing his clients into a state that was, between lives, in between lives. So he
You said
did
his name is Michael Newton?
Yeah, Michael
Oh,
Newton, he's
I
great. It's
don't
like
know that
number 1
name.
seller. Yeah, he's the bestseller for, this genre. And, his books are amazing, and they really changed my life in the way that I look at reincarnation. I was raised Buddhist,
Interesting.
and, it gave me a completely different appreciation of the whole concept of reincarnation and because what's really interesting, about his book is he really breaks down what are we doing between incarnations? That's his whole book.
Okay, well, now you've got me curious. What are we doing between incarnations?
Well, apparently, so we have these spirit guides,
Uh-huh.
right? That try to help us achieve the goals, whatever it is that we're looking to achieve in this lifetime. And then also, we're a part of these soul clusters. So we're born as souls, and we're born into these groups that we've known for eternity, for as long as we individually have existed.
Mhm.
And so once we pass away, we're met with this spirit guide who then takes us back and reintroduces us to our soul cluster, and you
Mhm.
get to hang out, and some of the soul cluster members come and incarnate together, and to
Do you
help.
then, like, so in the in between time, you're, like, updating each other? It's like the water cooler talk between lives on what you did?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
okay.
then you also there's a
Sounds
place
cool.
where you can go and, like, review all your past lives that you've had,
Yeah.
and then, and then you can kind of, travel around the universe
Is that
exploring.
is that connected to the idea of, like, the Akashic record? Is that
Yes, a
okay,
little bit. Not that Michael Newton doesn't. I don't remember him talking about Akashic
okay.
records or anything like
Yeah,
that, but I kind of put that in there, in the book,
okay.
because I thought, "Hey, that kinda sounds like that," but apparently you can have access to what's happened in the past. Anyway,
Mhm. Have you have you accessed past lives or anything like that?
so I really, really got into this, and I
Mm,
actually went to see this therapist who does lives between lives hypnotherapy, and I went to
okay.
see her for 2 years. And, it's a form of deep meditation and regression, and then you go through a past life, you go through a death, and then you go shoot out into the spirit world. And
Mhm.
I did this for a long time, and, hey, who knows
Yeah,
what I
right.
saw?
Who knows?
Who knows? But, it was really cool and trippy.
W
Yeah.
are you willing to share anything that you experienced?
Yeah, this, we have these spirit guides. Everybody,
Mhm.
not everybody, but most people have like one or a few. Apparently, I have four. I think
Oh, wow.
you have. I don't know why I have more. Maybe because I make so many mistakes, and they need more that need to be kind of watching out. Like, oh my god, look, she's doing something stupid again. Like, and the other one's like really tired. Like, oh my god, I can't handle her. So can you take turns? We need to take turns so another one comes down instead and, like, stops me in my tracks.
Did they have names?
Yes, they do have names.
Are you willing to share? You don't have to, but
I don't I don't remember their names, but I do
oh,
remember
okay.
with this, like, when I did all of this hypnotherapy stuff, it was probably more than, it's like, gotta be, like, 15 years ago. It's like a
Uh-huh.
really when I started delving into this, it was it was 25 years ago is when I started, and then I wrapped up the therapy around 15 years ago, so I don't remember. I just remember there was 4.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It
Yeah.
it clearly had a big impact on you. It's
Yes, it
shaping
did.
how you write now, and yet it seems like you've kind of moved away from some of that experience. And you said, "Who knows?" And so you don't hold it with certainty either. That's interesting.
No, I don't because, we are, of course, talking about the invisible,
Mhm.
and, I just always want to acknowledge to myself that, yes, it could be real, but yes, it also could not be real too.
Mhm.
Um, I also got into, shamanism a lot too and shamanic journeying through drumming,
Mhm.
and that was
Okay.
really cool too. So there was a little bit of overlap between spirit guides and lives between lives hypnotherapy and shamanic journeying too.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I explored that a lot as well, going into different worlds. Kinda trippy.
What caused you to leave that behind, in terms of the actual practices?
Yeah, occasionally I might do something like, go do a journey or something, but,
Mhm.
basically I've decided that life is to be lived on planet Earth.
Mhm.
We're here and we can't see the spirit world for a good reason. And,
Mm.
and, I'm here, I might as well try to keep my feet on the ground and my head in reality.
Huh.
That
Interesting.
that's where I kinda did a full circle, but hey, it's like kinda going to Disneyland. I don't wanna live in Disneyland. It's nice to go there
Sure.
sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, that's an effective analogy. So, it's like you could go to the past and you could keep exploring the past, but then I mean, if you just do that with every one of your lifetimes, then it'd be kinda boring because be like, "What'd you do last lifetime?" "Well, I looked at my previous one," and you just keep saying that
Exactly.
every
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, try to think about being in the here and the now and to create
Mhm.
whatever I can in the moment, and so I've disconnected from that a little bit and
Yeah,
try to focus my energy on what I'm doing in the moment.
yeah. Add to the story instead of just keep rereading it over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, but once in a while, it's a really good story, and it's nice to reread.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm kinda curious, about the alien side of things. We kinda mentioned it last time.
Yeah, yeah.
I only see this stuff, like, from very, very third party, like, every once in a while, somebody shares a conspiracy theory with me, and I love it, like, I'll eat it up, it's super fun. Um, I think last time we talked, you said been some stuff going on recently, I'm not super up to date on it. Is Are you in the loop, in the know on that sort of thing?
Not so much, but
Okay.
my first experience with, the whole UFO thing was when I was, I think, a teenager,
Okay.
and I swear I saw a UFO. Now,
Okay. What did it look like?
I told my mother this. I said, "Look, there's this silver thing that's flying in the air with these, like, blinking lights that it's going around and around in circles." And my mother's really skeptical, right?
Mhm.
And she said to me, she goes, that was a fly that got caught on fire in the barbecue and was just going spinning out of control and dying." I was
Very creative on the
like
spot.
like, "Thanks, mom." Yes, it's very creative, just on the spot, that's what she came up with, and I was like, "I think I could tell the difference between a spinning dying fly and a UFO." That's what I told her. And I've just been really it's just fascinating because I definitely saw something that was odd. Was it created by aliens or humans? Who knows? But
Mhm.
it definitely made me realize that this is something that I'd never seen before, and I've never seen anything like that. And the second time I saw something kind of odd was last year. Do you remember all that drone activity out in New Jersey?
I heard about it. I don't really
Yeah.
read articles or follow the news at all, so I only hear things that people tell me.
Well, so
Yeah, I heard
I
about the
hadn't
whole
actually even heard about the drones, but I was driving home because I work in New York City and I live in Westchester. So I was driving um home, and there was this massive drone that was above my car, and I was driving,
Mhm.
and it's like the size of I think like a bus.
Wow.
And it was probably about 10 stories
Did
above
it
me.
have propellers?
Well, it was dark, so I couldn't really
Oh,
see
hard to tell.
completely. So I couldn't see that part. I could just kinda see the outline and the blinking lights on the rim of the drone. And, and so I
Mhm,
told some people the story, and they said, "Hey, it was probably a helicopter." I was like,
mhm.
"I can tell I think at my age, I know what a helicopter looks like."
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean? Like, and a helicopter's not the size of a of a bus.
How close was it to you?
I think like 10 stories, 10 about like so my office is on the 12th floor. So I
Uh-huh.
remember looking up and thinking, "Oh, yeah, it's kind of like around that height." So it's like pretty low, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
was it circular? Or was it
No, no, it's more like a rectangular, shorter than a bus, but probably wider than a bus. But
Huh.
almost as long as a bus, like a school bus.
Yeah.
And
Do you what are your, craziest theories that you want to be true?
I don't know. I don't know. I so anyway,
Oh,
so
come on, you're a
I oh,
sci-fi writer, you
so
gotta
so
have
anyway, so I wrote this is actually part of my book. Actually,
Okay.
so I put it in my book. It's like one of
Spoiler.
the I think the second to last chapter. So I'm not gonna say this is real, but what I decided to write about is that these were, UAPs with aliens in them, and they were trying to introduce themselves to planet Earth. Like,
Mhm.
"Hi, everyone. We're here." And then it
Yeah.
got shut down. I don't remember how my story ended, but it was just an introduction of, "We're here. You should know about us. This is obviously technology that you don't have."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I have this theory, kind of based on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I
But
think
yeah.
we talked about this
Yes.
last time too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things in that book was the somebody else's problem field, which is like it's one of the last cloaking devices that he writes about, which is all it does is it signals to whoever is watching, signals to their brain that what they're looking at is somebody else's problem, so they don't pay attention to it, and so it makes it invisible, which is causing you to not care. Basically, and I've thought about, like, how funny would it be if there have been aliens and creatures living among us all this time, and we see them, we interact with them, but it immediately just edits itself out of our memories, and so they might be on this Zoom call with us right now, but our brain just, like, can't look at them, like, it just keeps deleting them out. Like, I've always thought that I don't know, I love Douglas Adams and the way that he thinks, but it just got me thinking, "Oh, there's so many, like, creative ways that you could spin this of how we are interacting with extraterrestrials all the time," or things like that.
Totally. So that's I actually use that theory in my book. I was a big
Okay.
Douglas Adams fan, and yeah. So in the book, I actually have aliens. There's alien species that are living amongst us already. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have that in there too. And then people are obviously being abducted because that's the conspiracy theory, right? So I
Yeah, you gotta
basically
have
all the
abduction.
yeah. So I took all the conspiracy theories I could find, and I kind of threw them together into this story.
Wonderful.
Um, and people getting abducted and not remembering it well, and kind of using that theory of like, well, 'cause it's so unrelated to reality that they couldn't necessarily process it, so you kind of
Mhm.
forget.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Yeah, definitely let me know when the book is out.
Well, I'll
If you
definitely
want an advanced reader, like, you could send me a copy beforehand, I would totally check it out, I'd give you a review. But, yeah, I
thank you, thank
love
you.
sci-fi. I love thinking
Oh,
about that
good.
stuff. Yeah,
It's
super fun.
totally silly. There was a lot of real in there too, like, I talk a lot about the garbage patch, but I made it into a monster instead.
Mm.
Yeah.
In the ocean, you mean?
Yes, the ocean. Yeah,
Wonderful.
the garbage
Yeah.
patch. Yeah.
The true sea monster is actually the garbage patch.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I kind of took the conversation off the rails. Hopefully that's okay. But if you if you want to address anyone who might be listening to this conversation, is there anything that you'd like to say to the world, to other people who might be listening in?
I think that, kind of like me, when I almost died, that life is short, and to live without regret, because I do think it's awful getting to the end and thinking, "Oh, bummer. I missed out on something that could have been really awesome." And you never know when that's gonna happen.
Mhm.
So go do that awesome thing. Whatever you've been waiting for, just go do it.
Well said. Yeah, I'd hate to get to the end of my life and my last words to be "shucks."
I know, right? Oh, man, I missed the point.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think so, but
I don't think so either.
well, thank you for sharing this space and being human together today. It was, I really enjoyed the conversation. Lots of smiles, lots of fun. So, thanks
Thank you
again.
so much for having me on your show.
The Superhuman Academy podcast is hosted by Collin Jewett and designed and edited by Army Cinco, with original music by Joshua Schunig and voiceovers by Corey Page Schunig. That's me. You can find past episodes and resources, as well as access to the ever-growing Superhuman Academy community at superhumanacademy.com. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.